We're going to be doing the third and fourth entry into our 22 series by doing US 422. I'm just kidding, but we are going to be doing US Highway 422. And the unique thing about US Highway 422 is that it is split into two separate routes. A western route where it connects the central Pennsylvania up towards Cleveland, and the eastern route which connects Harrisburg over to the Philadelphia area. And these two routes are mainly connected by its parent US 22 and US 322. So let us get started with US 422. But first, you're watching the TheDerpHog, where I make highways content on all sorts of different topics. If you've been enjoying it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you've been really enjoying it, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're notified on all future videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, become a member today, where you get custom cool emojis, early access to future videos, along with one free extra request per month. And if you don't want to become a member, you can always just pay $3 for a intersection request in future videos. Those highways will be listed down in the description below, and I'll make sure to shout you out when that video releases. So let's get on with the highway. As you can see here, this is the map of US Highway 422 as it starts in downtown Cleveland and heads east towards Ebensburg, where the western segment ends, and then the eastern segment starts in Hershey and heads towards King of Prussia. So with that, going eastbound on 422. So we begin here in downtown Cleveland at the Cleveland Public Square with my epic drawing skills once again. And we have finally done all the all the major highways that heat here in downtown Cleveland. And if you want to check out all the other ones, they're down in the description below. I definitely would recommend them. Anyways, here on our first major junction on US 422 is with Interstate 90 here, right in front of the Cleveland Guardians ballpark here, so that's pretty cool. We're also concurrent with Ohio routes 14, 10, and 8. Here we get a reassurance shield with all four of those highways, along with Ohio Route 87 here. Here's where Ohio Route 10 splits off from us, as it's going to be heading towards Interstate 490. We're also meeting with Interstate 77 here, getting signed south for Akron. Here we're split off from Ohio Route 87, and we're just now getting signed the neighborhood of Kinsman. I do not like that choice at all. That should be Beechwood, not Kinsman. Oh, Beechwood, we meet with Interstate 271, and we're now going to have a short concurrency with it as we head south towards other places. Here's where we split off from Interstate 271, as it's being signed south for Columbus, which is an awesome choice. We're also meeting with Interstate 480 here, and we're now getting signed east for Warren, which I think is an okay choice. Because if you want to get to Youngstown from here, it's faster to take either 271 or 480 to get back to 80 instead of hopping onto 422 here. And our first mileage time after exiting the Cleveland metro area, we get Warren as our primary from 41 miles away. And a ways up the road, we're now getting another mileage sign, and we still have one as our primary from 25 miles away as we're crossing this lake here. Here in Warren, we meet with Ohio routes 5 and 82, and we can see that in the distance that eastbound is now getting signed for Sharon, Pennsylvania, so that is a very interesting choice. Also in downtown Warren, we meet with Ohio Route 45, which is known as Todd Avenue here, so I bet Todd from Control City Freak would appreciate this. Despite Todd being only spelled with one less D. And then once we get to the Youngstown area, we're now meeting with Interstate 80 here, which is getting awesome Control Cities. Though you can't really see in the distance, but eastbound is getting signed for New York City, which I wish something PennDOT would keep up in their state, but we all know the story about that. Further up the road, we're now going to be joining with Ohio Route 193, and 193 southbound will actually take you over to Interstate 680, so that's pretty cool. Here, still in Youngstown, we actually meet with US Highway 62 here, getting signed for Hubbard and Poland respectively. I mean, I would prefer to see Sharon instead of Hubbard for 62 eastbound. And we're now getting signed east for Campbell and Newcastle. No, Newcastle is not in Ohio, it's actually in Pennsylvania, which makes sense. And And a little ways up the road, we're now entering into the state of Pennsylvania as we're meeting with Pennsylvania Highway 208 right at the state line. Ooh, that is actually a very nice looking welcome sign, PennDOT. Wait, no, what? No, why are we getting the terrible one? I wanted to see the old one. Please come back. Anyways, our first major junction here in Pennsylvania is with Interstate 376, and we're now going to be concurrent with it as we head towards Butler and Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh is awesome being signed. And also in Newcastle, we meet with US Highway 224, and this is an eastern terminus, so it looks like that US 224 has a palindromic terminus here, so that's pretty cool. And this is where we split off from Interstate 376 as it will become a toll road to head towards Pittsburgh, and we're going to be still being signed east for Butler still. But our next mileage time, we actually now get Katanning as our primary from 44 miles away, which I think is an awesome choice for something beyond Butler. On our way to Butler, we meet with US Highway 19 here. You can sign for Mercer and Zelienople respectively, which are good choices. We also meet with Interstate 79 because US 19 is not so far from Interstate 79 in Pennsylvania, and 79 gets awesome control cities like it does north of Pittsburgh. And here in Butler, we meet with Pennsylvania Highway 8 here, and Pennsylvania 8 will take you into downtown. In our next mileage time, we actually now get Indiana PA as our primary from 45 miles away. No, not the state, because that is actually west of here. Here in Katanning, we're now going to be joining with Pennsylvania Highway 28, and that will take you back down towards Pittsburgh, or we're going to be continuing with 28 northbound to head towards Katanning in Indiana. Here in this portion of US Highway 422, it actually looks very, very scenic here. Wow. Here's where we split off from Pennsylvania Highway 28 and 66 as they head north towards New Bethlehem. Yes, I get that's where both of those highways split. I would prefer to see either Brookville or Clarion, not New Bethlehem, because both Brookville and Clarion are way bigger than New Bethlehem, while 422 is still getting signed east for Indiana PA. But our next mileage time, we actually now get Ebensburg as our primary from 40 miles away, so that is awesome to see. Here in Indiana, we meet with US Highway 119, which is getting signed south for Blairsville. No, not Blairsville, Georgia. And 119 northbound is getting signed for Punxsutawney, which I think is an okay choice. Also, it is very interesting how there are just exits A and B with no number here, so Anyways, after passing through Indiana, we actually now get Ebensburg still as our primary from 26 miles away. And we end here, the western segment, at US Highway 219. And if you want to continue to trek for US Highway 422, you would follow 219 to US 22 and would take 22 to the Harrisburg area. So we're going to be skipping all the way towards the eastern segment, which starts east of Harrisburg. And here is where the eastern segment begins at US Highway 322, and I've actually personally been at this junction. I went to Hershey a couple years ago for a post-graduation trip with my grandpa, and I actually did enjoy the little town. And we can see that 422 is also now getting signed for Palmyra. I would prefer to see Lebanon instead of Palmyra. Here is downtown Hershey, and I love how all the street lamps actually have little Hershey kisses. And we can see that there's a 422 reassurance shield. Here we meet with Pennsylvania Highway 473, which is the road that actually taking you into Hershey Park, so that is pretty cool. And skipping ahead to the Lebanon area, we actually meet with Pennsylvania Highway 72 here, so that's pretty cool. Here we get our first mileage sign for the eastern section of US Highway 422 with Myerstown on the top line and refading from 26 miles away. Can I ask a question? Are we refading into Farm Wolf here, or is PennDOT signing an entirely different city? Oh, they were talking about Reading. I must have just been reading that mileage sign wrong then. Anyways, here in Reading, we're now going to be joining with US Highway 222 as we're still getting signed for Reading because we haven't made it to downtown yet. We're also now getting signed for Allentown and Pottstown. Pottstown is for 422, while like we saw last week, US 222 will be heading up towards Allentown. Anyways, after going through the Reading area, we're now crossing over the Schuylkill River here and we get a pretty nice view of the area. Here we meet with Interstate 176, which will take you south towards Morgantown. No, not the Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Though I believe it is actually the fastest way to Morgantown, West Virginia from here by taking Interstate 176. And we can see that US 422 is still getting signed for Pottstown. Here in Pottstown, we meet with Pennsylvania Highway 100, which is getting signed south for West Chester, and northbound is actually also getting signed for Allentown here. And if we take a look on Pennsylvania 100, we can see that we're now getting signed for King of Prussia, which is a great choice. Here in King of Prussia, we meet with Pennsylvania Highway 23, getting signed for Bridgeport and Valley Forge, which belongs on Pennsylvania 23. And we can see that we're still getting signed for King of Prussia. This here is our eastern terminus at US Highway 202 and Interstate 76 here. And we can see that 76 is getting signed east for Philly, which is an awesome choice, while 202 is getting signed for King of Prussia and Westchester respectively. And if we follow the ramp onto US 202 northbound, we end up here right at a junction with Interstate 76 and 276. So we're going to be turning around and doing westbound US 422. So we begin here on US Highway 202, where we can see that US 422 is now getting signed west for Pottstown, which is a good choice. Our first major junction after leaving US 202 is with Pennsylvania 23 once again. And here in Pottstown, we meet with Pennsylvania Highway 100 getting signed north for Allentown. And if we take a look at off of Random Junction here, we can see that we're now getting signed west for Reading, which is a great choice. But our next mileage zone, we only get it from 8 miles away. I mean, I would have preferred to see either Hershey or Lebanon on here instead of Mount Penn, because I do not like mileage signs like looking like this. I want to see longer distant control cities, please. Luckily, after going through Mount Penn, we actually do get Lebanon as our primary from 34 miles away. Here we meet with Interstate 176 once again, which will take you south towards Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Here we meet with Pennsylvania Highway 12. We're now going to be joining with US Highway 222 once again, getting signed for Lancaster and Lebanon. Here's where we split off from US Highway 222 as that'll head south towards Lancaster. We're now going to be signed west for Lebanon and along with Penn Avenue West for some reason. I mean, I would prefer to see Hershey instead because I do not like Kentucky treatments. Luckily, our next mileage time, we still get Lebanon as our primary from 13 miles away. And then after going through Myerstown, we actually now get Hershey as our primary from 19 miles away, so that is pretty interesting. So it looks like that they're skipping Palmyra entirely going this direction, so I have no idea why it was assigned going eastbound at the 322 split. Here in downtown Lebanon with this cool looking Christmas scenery, we're meeting with Pennsylvania Highway 72. Here, skipping ahead to Hershey, we meet with Pennsylvania Highway 743, and we do get Shields this time, unlike going eastbound. And we end here at Pennsylvania Highway 39 and US Highway 322, and we can see that there is a nice little end US 422 shield for this segment of US 422. So once again, we're going to be skipping all the way back up towards the western segment near Ebensburg. Here on US Highway 219, which we saw in the 219 video, we can see that 422 is now getting signed for Indiana, which I think is an okay choice. And going this direction, it would definitely make sense to sign the state and not. Anyways, our first major mileage time on the western segment of US 422, we get Indiana PA as our primary from 28 miles away. Though in theory you can also do Indiana from 320 miles away because that's how far the state is from this exact point. Though in Indiana PA we meet with US Highway 119 along with Pennsylvania Highway 56 here, as they're getting the same control cities that we saw going eastbound. We also get the same exit tabs that we saw going eastbound too, which is pretty interesting still. And at rim junctions here in Indiana, we're now getting signed west for Kittanning, which is a good choice. Here in Kittanning, we meet with Pennsylvania routes 28 and 66 once again. We're now going to be joining with southbound, as we're still getting signed for Kittanning, despite the business route here, right here, getting also signed for the city. I would prefer to see Butler and Pittsburgh here, because Pennsylvania 28 will head towards Pittsburgh, and it's way bigger than Ford City. They're just favoring Pennsylvania 66 here because it becomes one of the state highways with the turnpike section. Boo. Here's where Pennsylvania 66 lets off to head south towards Ford City. And here's where Pennsylvania 28 splits off to head south towards Pittsburgh, which is an awesome choice. Here at the Pennsylvania 268 junction though, we're now getting signed west for Butler, which also is a good choice. Here in Butler, meet with Pennsylvania Highway 8, which will head up north towards Harrisville. So there's a Harrisburg and a Harrisville, Pennsylvania. Interesting. But our next mileage time, we actually now get a palindromic one with Youngstown as our primary from 52 miles away. So that is awesome here by PennDOT. Well done. Me with Interstate 79, as 79 northbound will take you up towards Erie. We also meet with US Highway 19, getting the same control cities that we saw going eastbound on 422. And here is the Newcastle business route, and we can see that 422 is now getting signed for Sharon and Youngstown. Sharon is for 376, while Youngstown is for US 422. I mean, you could also argue Youngstown for also Interstate 376, but 422 is probably the faster way from, instead of taking 376 all the way up to Interstate 80. Here's that Sun Junction with Interstate 376, getting signed for Sharon and Youngstown. I mean, I get Sharon is where 376 ends, but I would prefer to see Cleveland instead of Sharon, because Interstate 80 will eventually head towards Cleveland, which is way bigger than anything in Pennsylvania. So I would actually have Cleveland and Youngstown signed instead of Sharon and Youngstown. Here we meet with US Highway 224 once again, and we're now going to be splitting off from Interstate 376 in 3/4 of a mile, still getting signed for Youngstown. And here's that said junction, and we're now getting a mention of 2 Interstate 80, so that's where you put Cleveland instead of Sharon. Here we are now entering into the state of Ohio, so yay. Here in Youngstown, we're now going to become a freeway as we head west towards Warren. And here's where we split off from Ohio 193, which is being the awesome control cities of Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Wow. And we're still getting signed for Warren still. Still in the Youngstown area, we meet with Ohio Route 711, which will actually take you up towards Interstate 80, along with Ohio Route 11 proper, and we can see that they're getting signed for New York City and Ashtabula. That is actually a very interesting combination. It's not every day you see a city in eastern Ohio being signed with the biggest city in the entire country on one sign, which I think is pretty cool to see. Anyways, we also meet with Interstate 80 ourselves, and we can see that it's being signed for New York City just by itself. And if you take a look in the distance, 80 westbound is also getting signed for Cleveland. And on Interstate 80, we can see that we're not getting signed for Girard. We were being signed for Warren in downtown Youngstown. Now we're getting signed for the next town over. That should be Warren, Ohio. Why are you being inconsistent? Anyways, here in downtown Warren, we meet with Todd Avenue once again, or Ohio Route 45. And here we meet with Ohio Routes 5 and 82, and we can see that we're now getting signed for Cleveland ourselves, which is an awesome choice. I mean, you could also sign a Cleveland suburb, but Cleveland itself is still great to see. And I had to skip all the way to once we get to the Cleveland exurbs because there are no mileage signs telling us how far we are from Cleveland, but here's a mileage sign once we get our freeway portion once again. And we also get that interstate route abbreviation once again like we saw in US22 proper, so cool. Here we meet with Interstate 480 and 271, and we're now going to be joining with 271 northbound as we head towards Erie. And here's where I split off from Interstate 271 as now becoming a surface street to head towards downtown Cleveland. Here we meet with Interstate 77 here, and we can see that yes 422 is now being signed for the Cleveland Guardians ballpark along with the Cavaliers arena, so that is pretty cool to see. And as we're heading into downtown Cleveland, we have all the reassurance shields with the 4 state highways in US 422. And we also get this amazing view of the Cleveland skyline. And here we finally end at the Cleveland Public Square. We're just going to mention of US Highway 6 and 20, which I think are okay choices because both US 6 and 20 are way more important routes than 42 and 322. So with that, we end US Highway 422 and we move on to the places I'll go. So while I have been on a very tiny portion of US 422, there are other places that I would like to visit, like the city of Cleveland, the city of Newcastle, the city of Kittanning, Indianapolis, the city, and I'll also love to revisit Hershey, along with the city of Reading, then Valley Forge, the King of Prussia Mall, and the city itself, and other Philadelphia suburbs. So that ends US Highway 422. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode on US Highway 422. It was a lot of fun learning about this road and seeing all the scenic points on both sections of US Highway 422. Anyways, next week we're going to be finally finishing up our 22 series by US 522, and after that we're going to be doing US Highway 13. So if you have any extra requests for both highways, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to shout you out once those highways release. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next week as we do 522. Bye!